So in this interview, we have today Lieutenant Commander John Livingstone, who has served in Indian Navy for a decade as a UAV pilot. So in this interview, we'll try to understand his journey of joining Indian Navy, life within Indian Navy, and various lessons that he has learned in armed forces, which he is currently using in civil world. So welcome and thank you for coming on the interview, sir.
Thank you so much.
So my first question to you would be, if you could tell us about your initial days before joining Indian Navy. How was it, and how did you decide to join the Navy?
Well, it all started with a requirement of uh, me. I applied for NASA to join as pilot astronaut. That
Okay.
was way back in 2002, and that was my final year of college. And they mentioned one thing very clearly on their website that time, that if you want to become a pilot astronaut, you need to be good at ship deck landing pilot. And I didn't understand that time what it was. It means basically you should be a helicopter pilot who can land that helicopter on the ship, which means the ship is a very unstable platform and you should be able to land. So that was my first thought as to, okay, there's something called Navy as well. So I
Hmm.
need to apply to Navy. So that was how I applied to Navy and I joined Navy. That was the reason. It's not Desh ka seva or something else. It was something which was a professional requirement which made me join the Navy.
You spoke about that NASA and astronaut thing. Say, if you would not have joined Indian Navy, what would you be doing then?
This thing, I would have been a businessman and an entrepreneur, what I'm right now, if I wouldn't have joined the Indian Navy.
Got it, sir. So, if you could tell us about, experience in the Indian Naval Academy, any memories that you would like to share with the audience on the aspirants?
Oh wow, that is something I must tell, that that's the best of the best trainings you would ever get in anybody's life. Because as a cadet, you'll be surprised for that new world you'll get inside. The outside world, what you're in, is totally different from the world of academy. Academy makes a man out of a boy. That's the word. It will make a man out of a boy. So the way they train you is brilliant, and the kind of experiences you get are all surprises. You physically get so much uh, burnt out and mentally exhausted. Everything happens. But if you have that thing in you, like it is always said in the army before they join at the OTA or IMA, if you have that in you, then you will become an officer. So
Hmm.
yes, if you have that in you, you will be able to take that 6 months, first 6 months, and it'll go to the next 6 months. So this is not actually meant for everybody. This is for a very few people in the world who can become officers. So experience in the academy was amazingly good, though it was bitter at times sometimes, and it was a little difficult to go through all those ragdas and punishments and training and studying and a lot of things. But one thing is for sure, that will make you man out of your boy.
Okay. Sir, if you could tell us about your SSB experience. So, how was it? How did you prepare back then in terms of the test? And what, suggestion you would like to give to aspirants who are preparing?
SSB is something like this. Um, you should give a shot only once, and if you got that once, you'll have it forever. You cannot keep repeating it again and again and again. इसका मतलब है कि you don't have that thing in the first attempt itself. I only gave once, that's it. And I told myself, yeah, this is not happening, this is not the end of the world. So I'm not going to be worried about this job or maybe not getting selected. No, my experience was very, very harsh. In fact, I went to Bangalore in the November of 2003, and it was getting chilled. It was cold, new times, and I was already working in a company by that time. And I told myself, if that's not happening, I'll continue to work where I'm doing. But that was not my only goal to get into the armed forces. I didn't go with that intention. And once I went there, I was very much prepared. एक चीज सबको एक चीज सोचना है कि कुछ भी अटेम्प्ट करें, वो परीक्षा हो या एसएसबी हो या बिजनेस प्रपोजल हो, कुछ भी हो, without preparation you will definitely fail. Without preparation you will definitely fail. So all those aspirants must prepare. I prepared 2 months ahead of SSB date. So 8th November was my SSB date scheduled in 2003. And somewhere around August itself, I started training myself. So I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't afford expensive sneakers and sports shoes. So I bought those 120 rupees canvas shoes. I used to run every morning for about 40-45 minutes and prepared myself physically. I started physically working out and did everything physically that I'm supposed to be doing. And I bought a book called SSP Test, which was costing 70 rupees way back in 2003. And I chewed every word in that book. Chewed, not just read it. So I would have read maybe some 10, 12 times that book again and again and again and again. Understood the background of SSB. And then I prepared very clearly. The most important thing that knocks everybody out is your group discussion. If you're good at group discussion, that's the first test. You'll go ahead in everything until your final interview. You must get through your group discussion. That's very critical. And that happens because of 2 reasons. Number 1, you should be good at English. Number 2, if you're good at English, you will have good confidence. Simple. And combining both, they will be testing only one thing, and that is your attitude. So the trick of group discussion, beat SSB or beat any say interview, is very simple. You should start the group discussion and you should make sure everybody else is getting a chance to talk. So you'll tell, acha, aapka ye point hai, theek hai, now you please say what is your point. So you lead the group and everybody said something and then bring it out as a conclusion and then you conclude it. So you end up becoming a natural leader. So that sets your benchmark to open up your way into the 5th day of SSB. That's how it happens.
Okay. So we were talking about, your experience in Indian Navy. So you were a UAV pilot. If you can just walk us through, how does one become a UAV pilot? What is the process like? I understand that I've read that you went to UAV Tetra School, which is for IAF. So if you can just tell us that journey.
Becoming a UAV pilot is not a direct process in any of the armed forces. You first join as either executive officer or a pilot in the Air Force or as infantry officer. And of the 3 streams, they'll pick you up if you are inclined towards unmanned systems, robotics, or drones. They also check whether you're interested in these advanced technologies. Because most of the times what happens once somebody joins armed forces, they get stuck in old school style. They don't keep themselves with the latest technologies. So this happens a lot once anybody joins armed forces. So they keep observing who's good at these things, because UV technology is a very advanced and highly deep technology. So for that, you need people who understand technology and who's got that skill. So there was an offer which came after joining the Navy, and then I applied for it. Then I became a UV pilot.
Okay. Sir, if you can also walk us through the training process, how does that look like? Because we know if somebody wants to become a fighter pilot, we know they go to these many schools and that's how the process looks like. But not sure about how UAV pilot training looks like.
A UV pilot training is different from the fighter pilot or something. In this, what happens is first they'll send you to a 1-month ground training where you'll understand the UV technologies, UCAV technology. UCAV stands for Unmanned Combat Aerial Vehicle, which is a combat drone. And they teach you all these things. And after that, they start teaching you on the aero models.
Okay.
And once you're good at aero models, they'll start making the model size bigger and bigger. So you move from basic aero models to aerobatic aero models. And then you go to the half scale size of the actual UAVs. and then you go to the bigger UAVs. So that's how they progress your training from small sized drones to larger sized drones, because these drones are very expensive. They cost nothing less than 50 crore rupees one drone. So you can't afford to crash them. So you have to be really, really good at that. So
Got
that's how the training happens. And it is not like fighter pilot training, which will be 6 months or 1 year. This
uh,
minimum takes about 18 months
okay.
of training, because this is a different model. It's totally different from conventional flying training.
Okay. Uh, so you have served in Indian Navy. So my next question will be, if I tell you three life lessons that you have learned from armed forces.
Three life lessons. Number one, first lesson I learned is the day you join Navy, you're already dead. So every day you get to live is that luck what has favored you. So you're lucky to live one more day. So that's the first lesson I learned in the Navy. And uh, the second lesson I learned is your tomorrow is decided by your seniors, not you.
Okay.
Okay. So your tomorrow is decided by your senior. So respect your seniors, and whatever your seniors tell, you better obey to it. Otherwise, your tomorrow will be decided in a very bad way. All right, that is a second lesson I learned in the Navy, and Navy taught me truly my originality. It will give you opportunities every now and then to bring you, the original you, out of the fancy world where we live in, the social media. People praise us. We don't know actually who we are. But Navy puts you into such times and such situations where you will actually come to know, oh, hum bolte na, tumhara aukad, your actual originality.
Mm.
That will be taught to you, and it will be realized. You'll come to know, uska jnanodaya hoga. So you'll have your truth, moment of truth coming out. So these are the three things I learned in the Navy.
Okay, got it, sir. Sir, currently you are basically an entrepreneur, and so even the armed forces is all about leadership. So, what, according to you, is leadership, and how did armed forces help you develop that?
The armed forces helped me. Firstly, leadership thing is something like leaders. It's a very debatable thing. Leaders are born or leaders are made. So a lot
Mm,
of people debate about this thing. I think leaders are always made. They're
mm,
not born. Situations, upbringing, money, demand, passion, all these things are mixed up, and then actually they are made into leaders.
mm,
In my case, as long as I was in the Navy, I learned one thing as a leader, that if you don't respect your juniors, you will never be able to earn that respect.
mm,
So regardless of the talent, caste, creed, race, you must respect your juniors. And if you abuse them, if you shout at them, they're not going to respect you. Leadership is something, when you tell your men, when you tell your people, they
mm,
just should blindly follow you. And if somebody has to follow you blindly, they should respect you. And they will respect you only when you respect them. It's
mm,
absolutely important to respect your men and take care of them. So I exactly brought that into my corporate leadership. For me, more than my customers, my employees are important. So I take care of my employees take care of the customers take care of my company. So if you know how to take care of your men, respect them, treat them equally as human beings, trust me, you'll be the best leader.
got it, sir. So before I go to the next question, I just have one more thing. So you told me that you currently have two companies. So if you could just briefly tell us what are these two organizations that you basically have?
So on the back, you are seeing Indian Institute of Drones logo.
Yeah.
IID is one of the startups which I started 3 years back. It is a drone pilot training company, which is the fastest drone pilot training company in the country. We have trained more than 2,000 drone pilots across the country. And we have about 8 training centers in India, from Leh to, I should say, Chennai in the south.
Mm-hmm.
And we are growing. We have about 14 instructors in our company. The other startup, Jonet Technologies, is
Mm-hmm.
also a drone company. IID trains drone pilots, and Jonet Technologies manufactures drones.
Mm-hmm.
So that is aimed at defense and other paramilitary forces and other users of the drones, where we manufacture drones. And we are right now making advanced technology drones, also commercial drones for both commercial markets and defense markets.
Okay, okay, got it, sir. Sir, I have a personal question with respect to UAV pilots. We know about the normal pilots, so they have a different kind of risk involved. The G-force, if you are a fighter pilot, but as a UAV pilot, you are away and you are controlling a UAV. So how what goes into your mind? Because the life risk is not on you currently. If you're a UAV pilot, how difference it makes.
The biggest threat to a UAV pilot is responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of your life is safe, but
Mm-hmm.
because of you, two things are in danger. One, the expensive drone. Number two, if you don't fly appropriately, properly, if the drone crashes into some crowded zone, they are dead. And that's a huge drone. So, and the combat drones of the US, where a lot of Afghani, Pakistani, Iraqis, there were civilian casualties happened. Now, they may be flying, sitting in Nevada or New York or somewhere in the US, but every time they strike and casualties happen, civilian casualties who are innocent,
Mm-hmm.
they cannot go back to sleep that night. So it's a moral responsibility that literally pinches you as a UAV pilot more than being, keeping your life at risk.
Sir, you were a short service commission officer. So if you could just tell us, put light on what advantage does a short service commission officer gets once he basically comes out of the forces? How does the armed forces equip them with all the skills that is required?
Okay, there are two things to this thing. Number
Mm,
one, a short service commissioning happens because there's a shortage of officers in the armed forces. It is not that they want to keep officers in this SSC, and they are not going to be taken permanently unless they're really good at something. Ideally, armed forces was meant for permanent absorption, which means anybody who joins forces must serve for 20 years minimum.
mhm,
But we have experienced in the last 25, 30 years the shortage of officers. So that was the primary motto to take short service commissioned officers. That is the intention. So now with this intention, your bosses in the armed forces are not going to treat you so great that you're going to be there forever. You have to prove yourself. That's a point number one. Now, point number two is this really helps you when you leave the Navy or armed forces in a way that you have advantage of your age and you totally understand how the armed forces function. And wherever you go, whichever company you join later, you
mhm,
have the edge of the management and the leadership skills,
mhm.
which not your other counterparts, civilian counterparts, will not have.
Okay, okay. Sir, I also read about you. You were basically the first in UAV Tetra school. So if you could just tell us, how was that experience in that
Yeah,
UAV
that was
Tetra school? Yeah.
fantastic. Well, there was an accidental thing which I got into that batch. I was not very keen, but before that, I got grounded from flying, and that was the reason why I said I'll join the UAVs if I'm not flying. So I I told my boss, if you don't send me for this batch, I'm not going to perform well in the organization.
Mm,
And he thought I was mad. And he said, there's something wrong with your head. You go correct yourself, go see a doctor. And I was reluctant. And I challenged him and I
mm,
told, you just send me to this once and I'll show you who I am.
mm.
And challenge to kar liya. अब suddenly मुझे पता चल गया next day morning, John, your name is going for UAV Tetra School, जाओ. And I was like, okay, अब तो पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा. So I went there, and then I started knowing what the drones are and the potential of the drone. I started studying first few days. The reason why I topped, and still I think my only name exists engraved in UA Tetra School even today, probably is because I started loving it. I just started loving drones in 2007. And tab se leke it's 14 years now, and I still love drones.
Mm.
So that love was the reason why I topped it. And I still have it in my cupboard here, that
Okay.
award. You
Okay.
want to see this?
Yes. Okay.
This is the one I got it. You
Nice.
can read it here closely.
Yeah. First in order of merit. Nice.
Yeah.
So
So this is the one. I got it. Yeah.
I assume everybody comes there, right? The people from Army, Air Force, and Navy. All three services?
Yeah, it becomes there. Yeah,
Okay.
no, only Air Force and Navy comes there.
Okay. Got it.
Army has got their own way to do it.
So my second last question to you would be, I also know that you're a fitness freak and, adventure. So what is the role of, the physical fitness and the attitude of that adventure in the armed forces, according to
Oh
you?
yeah, if you have it, you'll really go well in the armed forces because every day is an adventure in the armed forces. Every day. So if you have this freaking attitude towards your fitness that you should always be fit, get up early in the morning, run, come back, stay fit. That
Mm-hmm.
makes your mind so active and brisk, which helps you in handling any situation. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I made myself. I was even before joining Navy, I was like this. So it helped me in sailing through nicely. And afterwards, also I cannot live without gym. So of course, the last 6 months pandemic, you just say I'm working out in the house a little bit, but not very happy. But going to a gym, running outside is something which I would love to. Always. That gives you the most important thing about working out and physical fitness is self-discipline. There's a
Mm-hmm.
difference between discipline and self-discipline. Discipline, somebody tells you to do it, you do it. Self-discipline, you tell you, and then you do it. And that is what is required in the armed forces. Self-discipline.
Okay. So basically, my final question to you would be, what message you would like to give to defense aspirant? Because, a lot of people fail at SSB, but they keep going on. Sometimes people get depressed. What is your message to the defense aspirants?
I said this in the beginning itself.
Yes.
Life doesn't end here,
Mm.
and it's just another job. That's it. Joining armed forces is just another job, which looks absolutely fancy. But if it is not happening for you, it is not meant for you
Mm.
because it is a one-time test that happens. If you repeatedly try to prove yourself, it won't work. You have to prepare at least 2 months ahead of your SSB, and there's only one thing they're going to test, and that's your attitude. Your attitude, attitude, attitude.
Right.
I'll give a simple example how the attitude works. If you are going for some task, you have to go to point from point A to point B. You're walking and you are supposed to go to point B at any cost because that's a very important activity. You cannot decline that. While going, you see one woman getting raped.
Mm-hmm.
The choice is yours now. Either you ignore that woman and go to point B and get your job done, or you sacrifice your point B wala job and you save that woman. Now, these two are the things that are actually being tested. Now, the smart guys, they don't pick either of them. The smart guys, they'll make sure they will reach point B. If they're not able to reach in time, they'll inform that they're going to come back over there in some time. They'll rescue the woman. They'll make sure the woman is safe, and then
Mm-hmm.
they'll reach point B. The people who ensure that these two activities are done on that path are the people who get selected.
Okay.
If the person either chooses to save the woman or chooses to go to point B, which is also extremely important,
Mm-hmm.
will not get selected.
Okay.
This is a simple classic example. So SSB join karna hai, so you must give an attempt and give attempt only once. If you repeatedly keep trying, it means it's not meant for you. And life doesn't end here.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the only thing. And there's no war going on that you have to go and then fight. People join defense because of the uniform, because of the perks, because of the respect they get. No, there should be a reason why you're joining armed forces. You want to save your country? Join when there's a war.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you like to join. Nobody's stopping. But that is not the end of the world.
Okay.
That's it. As simple as that.
Sir, it was really nice talking to you. Your perspective of the armed forces and everything was very much different from what I've heard from other people. So it was really nice talking to you. Understand? I hope, the people who will be watching it will get some perspective, especially the repeaters, who keeps on going for 17, 18 times to the SSB.
That's nonsense. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Time waste because every time you fail, you get into depression.
Correct.
Change your path, achieve success in a different way.
Got it.
I'm going to supply my drones to the armed forces now. I'm serving my country.
Okay.
If there's a war between China and India, I will be supplying my drones and I will save my country. Yet again, I don't have to be in the uniform to save, right? So that's
Yes.
the whole point.
Yeah, true, sir. True, sir. Yeah. Thank you again, sir, for your time. It was really nice talking to you.
Absolutely. It was nice talking to you too, Akash. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.